And away we go. It is not Dan Strafford, but you'll be getting him on tomorrow's podcast. It is your old pal Emac coming to you with one Dave Lochran, Laffy D on the Osmo Early Bird podcast, presented to you by Yahoo Fantasy. Check out Yahoo Fantasy. Use the promo code Osmo and get $30 in Yahoo player points with your first DFS deposit. Those are available for immediate use. Dave, how was your weekend? Did you get Sunday off from SiriusXM duties?
I had to take off, but yes, I did, and it was a nice Easter. Went to Justine's aunt's house, hung out with the family, had a good time, ate some good food, and now we're back. Now it's just all about Game of Thrones, baby. It's all about GOT.
GOT, yes. We were laughing because I haven't watched any of them, and I read those kinds of dragon books and stuff when I was a kid because, we didn't have the internet and we didn't have iPhones and any of that, so you had to read books if you wanted to have fun. But I read the whole library. But it's funny, Dave, tell them your story. You're not a fan of dragons, but you're down with Game of Thrones.
Yeah, I mean, I'd never watched any fantasy stuff whatsoever or read any fantasy novels, anything like that. I don't even, what do they call them? Novels, but we'll call them books. How about that? None of that stuff ever appealed to me. I told you, I don't even, comic book movies like Marvel and what's the other one? I don't even know.
Comics.
What?
DC Comics.
DC. I know nothing about it.
I don't know which superheroes are under which banner. But
I have no idea. I mean, look, I honestly don't. I'm not knocking it whatsoever. I just never got into it, and I never had any interest in fantasy or whatever. And Game of Thrones, arguably the best show ever made. It's up there with The Sopranos, The Wire. I think Breaking Bad is up there as well. I mean, all of those shows, Game of Thrones, you could easily put it ahead of all of them. So when people say, oh, I don't like dragons or fantasy stuff is stupid, you don't really know what you're talking about because the show is so much more than that.
Are you thinking, and then we'll transition to baseball here, but are you thinking of getting a giant dragon tattoo on your back like Ben Affleck?
Already got one.
There you are. Proof is in the pudding, fellas.
That's right.
All right, we've got a fun slate here. We've got, what is it? I think 11 games?
10 games.
10 games. We've got Coors Field. We've got a lot of pitching, a couple question marks on the pitching. So for tonight, we're just going to focus on the pitchers themselves. We'll kind of go through, talk about the good ones, talk about the bad ones, get you a quick look here. Reminder that we do have the DFS MLB strategy show that will be at 9:15 Monday morning. We have the live before lock, the hour before the lock, and then we have the deep dive show as well. So we've got 3.5 hours tomorrow of content for you that will break down the slate well in depth. There are only 2 basketball games tomorrow. One's at 8 and one's at 10:30, and then I think there's 3 hockey games. So we'll have content for that as well. But let's start off here with the pitching. Laffy, I've got all the pricing open, but let's start off here with DraftKings. We can talk about the 2-pitcher side here, and we'll bounce around it and see what we've got. But up at the top for the expensive guys, you have Jack Flaherty going against Milwaukee. Yikes, not an easy matchup. Jake Arrieta going against a much-improved Mets team. J.A. Happ, hey, remember him? He used to be good, but the Angels just have terrible numbers against lefties outside of Mike Trout. You've got Matt Boyd going against Boston. Boston's been slumping. You've got Mike Minor, who had a resurgent game in his last one, but he's going against Oakland. That's not an easy task. And then, oh, good God, the sixth most expensive pitcher here is Chris Sale.
Crazy.
What? So let's start off with Chris Sale. Talk about what you saw with him in his last few starts, because he's like not breaking double digits even.
Yeah, I mean, listen, though, his last start, his velocity was sitting around 96, 97. That's really, really, really encouraging. First start was 92, second was 89, third was 91. This was 96. That's exactly what you want to see. He got knocked around a little bit, but I think we should also consider that the Yankees still have some good power bats. It came at Yankee Stadium, but the velocity was back up. He only got 1 whiff on that fastball. Again, worth mentioning, but the velocity is what matters to me more than anything here. There's just, look, last time out, I had mentioned I'm not playing Chris Sale until I see that his velocity is changed. His velocity was up, didn't have a great start, but at least we know that now. $8,600, there's no question that I'm going to have considerable interest in Chris Sale. Knowing that he's throwing 96, 97, 98, that's all I need to at least say, well, can he still have a really big game? The answer is yes. When he's throwing 91, it's a whole lot more difficult for me to get there. He maxed out at 98 in his last game. Very much interested in Sale. I think this is a ridiculous price. I'll touch on Flaherty for a second. Have you looked at Christian Yelich's, and I'll get to my point here, home road splits?
I have not.
He has 13 home runs at home, 0 on the road. Okay? And he's played 14 games at home, 9 on the road. But the biggest thing here is Christian Yelich at Miller Park, which is the second best lefty power park in the league, is going to be better. Now, he's elite. He's going to be great everywhere. But the Brewers in general that have a ton of righty or lefty power bats are going to be way better at Miller Park. Busch Stadium's pretty neutral / slightly pitcher friendly. I think Flaherty could be a guy that goes completely overlooked here, and I do have interest in him at a good venue, not in Milwaukee where he got blown up. Look, he's pitched in Milwaukee twice this year. People will look at that. He's given up 9 runs in 7 innings total. People will, of course, see that and back away and seeing that he's the highest priced guy. Get this start at St. Louis. I at least have GPP interest because he is still a high upside pitcher, and take them outside of Miller Park. There is still upside for Jack Flaherty.
All right. I like the way you're thinking there. And those are good points. And one of the things is St. Louis, we remember it turns into a hitter's park when it's reaching triple digits in July and August, and they're sitting right next to the Mississippi River there, and it gets really, really humid. That's when we think of, oh God, it's home run weather. It really is there. I've been to some games.
And it will be warm. It will be warm here today, but it's still not summer weather.
Yep. So I think that's a good one there. And baseball is always so funny. I mean, already facing the same team 3 times.
It's wild, isn't it?
It gives me a good chuckle there. If we were targeting anybody against Flaherty, looking for leverage outside of Yelich, is there anyone that pops out for you?
I mean, I think I'd rather just, go with a stack here if you're going to make anything happen, right? Because Flaherty's a good pitcher. So if, either he's getting blown up or not, it's really tough for me to pick one guy and hope that he's the one that does the damage against Flaherty. But if you're going to, of course, it's going to be Christian Yelich. I don't really think there's any 2 ways around that. Yelich would be your guy. Flaherty has allowed, home runs per 9. He does give up some home runs, and he strikes lefties out at a lesser rate than righties, but still strikes them both out a lot, and again, is very good. So it would be Yelich, but I mean, I still think with this game not being at Miller, I'm not going to be super heavy on Milwaukee, and I don't really care that he struggled twice in Milwaukee against them here.
Okay. Good points. Moving down to the pricing list, and I don't know if Jay Happ's ended up on any of the days that you've done the writing or you've really delved into his numbers, but has something changed with him? Because he had that dominant, I don't know, let's say Dave or J.A. Happ. He was dominant when he kind of changed towards the end of Toronto. I think I don't know that he changed his pitch or his pitch mix, but he had some sort of rising fastball that was working really well. He has not had a very good start at all here, but I love the matchup for him against Los Angeles. And I think I'm just looking to chalk it up to, well, maybe he's just been scuffling a little bit in his matchups, and this is a good park shift for him. Weaker lineup here. And he's faced, Baltimore twice and Boston once and Chicago once, but he hasn't gone beyond 5 innings except for his last start. He hasn't topped out over 88 pitches in any of his starts. He's gone 75, 88, 88, 84. So I'm just wondering if we're going to get, closer to 95 pitches, get him in that 5-6 innings potentially, and he can qualify for the win is where I'm going here, because at that price level, we kind of need at least a decent chance that he's going to even qualify for the win. And then hell, the bullpen can lose it or whatever. But what do you think about Happ against the Angels?
Everything looks pretty similar to last year. His fastball gets a good amount of whiffs. His four-seamer, he doesn't get a ton on his off-speed secondary stuff, but his swinging strike rate's at 11.3%. So he is missing plenty of bats. He's definitely got himself into jams. Boston, I'll give him a pass on that one. 2 against Baltimore, you have to wonder what's going on there. His velocity's down like 1 tick this year. I'm not super concerned about that. I think I would expect something similar to what I had mentioned about Marco Gonzalez the other day, with a little bit more strikeout upside. I could see Happ going very deep, 7+ innings into this game, allowing only one run, maybe shutting him out, and giving you like 5 Ks, maybe 6 Ks, because the Angels do not strike out a lot, but they're also not a team that boasts much power from the right side of the plate right now. Of course, you have the best hitter in the league. But outside of that, Andrelton Simmons doesn't strike out but isn't good. Zach Cozart. Albert Pujols hasn't really hit lefties for power in a while. Justin Bour probably won't be in the lineup. Then you're looking at like Kevin Smith or Jonathan Lucroy, David Fletcher, and Cole Calhoun batting from the left side. So this matchup for lefty pitchers doesn't concern me at all. I think you're probably right here that Happ should be considered. And, if you're looking at him, but just keep this in mind, Flaherty still, I believe, still has more or a higher ceiling. I do. And they're pretty similarly priced. But when you're looking at someone, and saying, do I go Happ or do I go Arrieta? Arrieta's had a few really good starts this year, but he still isn't getting any swinging strikes, any whiffs at all. And that is important to me. If you're not missing bats, you really need to go deep into games. But not only that, you also have to prevent the runs. Other guys are able to, give up a few runs and maybe go only 5 or 6 innings on not the best start and still give you 8 or 9 Ks and salvage. You don't get that with Arrieta. You look at his changeup and slider this year, that's his 2 most used secondary offerings, and he has a 14% whiff rate. Okay, sliders at 6%. He just doesn't really miss bats, and you're paying a premium for him here. I don't really have much interest in a guy that, unless he's going 7-8 innings, is probably not going to pay off his price point, especially at 9,600.
All right, moving. Wait, sorry. Were you talking Arrieta there?
Correct. I switched from Happ to Arrieta.
I thought I was looking up some Arrieta stats here, just saying back to the beginning of 2017, he's had about between a 19 and 20% strikeout rate to righties and lefties. It's not great. Much improved Mets team here. Nimmo, Conforto, Cano, a tough matchup here. So that one I agree with, a little more questionable. Mike Minor, the price is coming up here. Oakland, of course, a dangerous lineup, but we've seen Minor, with his boom or bust status, he has been nearly unhittable or gotten his ass kicked in his outings. But he has, in his last outing, he won a complete game. He had 3 hits, 2 walks, 7 strikeouts, got all the bonus points. So he had 40 DraftKings points because he had complete game and complete game shutout. 2 starts go against Arizona. He was okay. 7 innings, 2 earned runs. 5 strikeouts. All right, that's fair. Didn't get the win. The game before that, Houston, tough matchup. I wrote him off. He looked like Cy Young out there. 7 innings, no earned runs again. 5 hits, 7 strikeouts, 30 DraftKings points, and then first start of the year, opening day against Chicago, he got crushed. So I'm willing to go to Minor here, even with the price coming up dramatically in his last couple starts, because Oakland does possess some strikeouts. You just have to understand they do have power as well, and a fair amount of power from the right-hand side of the plate. Yeah,
there's a couple ways to look at this. One, Oakland could destroy Mike Minor today. There's no question about that. He's not at Ranger. He's not at Globe Life Park, though, so that's great. Look, this is actually a guy I'd mentioned. Here's another example of someone that for some reason you had – super chalky Angel stack because they had like a 5.3 run total. Didn't make much sense against Minor. I mean, look, I wasn't projecting him to go complete game shutout, of course, but Minor's better than people. I mentioned this on the deeper dive. He's better than people give him credit for. And he is going to have some rough starts, but he's also going to have some solid starts. He's gone 7 innings or more in 3 straight. He's allowed 2 total runs over all 3 of those. 1 came against Houston, one at Chase Field, one against the Angels. I mean, I think that you could make the argument for Minor here, but if you're playing him, I think you also very much have to consider stacking Oakland as well, just because of the amount of power they have from the right side of the plate. Minor will give up home runs to righties. So this is one where I and it's not a cop-out because baseball just works like this. Sometimes pitchers just shut opposing teams down, and good opposing teams, right? This is a spot to me where I could see either side coming out with really, really solid numbers. An Oakland stack or Mike Minor. But also, let's not forget either, EMAC, Minor's not cheap anymore, right? Like if we're playing Minor, we're paying for him, and we're hoping that he can give us, similar numbers to what he's been doing. His swinging strike rate, though, is 11.5%. It's very nice. The changeup that has always gotten the most swings and misses for him, he is throwing that more than he ever has, 25% of the time. That's encouraging. So, I mean, if he's going to throw his best pitch more, and he's going to obviously throw it more against righties, on the season he's throwing it to righties 30% of the time, and the four-seamer 43% of the time, and he's getting almost 12% swinging strikes. You could see another good start from Mike Minor here, so long as he keeps using that change up at a high rate.
Yeah, and just pointing stuff out here, Garrett Cole got his ass kicked on Saturday against Texas. And he said, I read an article that said he thought he might have been tipping his pitches, which is like what they always say whenever something happens.
Someone tweeted me asking what's wrong with Garrett Cole, and I wasn't watching the game. It was on during the Sixers, actually, I think. Yeah, it was. I'm not watching it, but it's not crazy that, yes, he's a good pitcher, but it's not out of it's not out of the realm of possibility that a team with a lot of good lefty power bats in Arlington, Texas, took you deep a couple times, and Joey Gallo was one of them. Like, yes, he got ravaged. I get that. But great pitchers will have bad starts, and the Rangers, especially at home against righties, have been great because you have Gallo. Asdrubal Cabrera has been excellent. Shin-Soo Choo, Mazzara, they've got a number of quality lefty bats. It's not the biggest surprise.
Yeah, and that I just bring that up because that seemed like a good spot for Cole, and I went 70% Cole, and
a lot of strikeouts.
Yeah, bats. I mean, sometimes bad stuff happens, and then conversely, we crapped all over Stassi, who was batting 8th or 9th because he only had 2 hits so far in the year. Of course, he homers. It's hello hashtag baseball. So.
Yep.
Hitting a couple of these other guys here. Brad Peacock and Jake Odorizzi squaring off against each other here. In Houston, we have the Twins and Astros. Peacock's been up or down. He's had 2 good starts and 2 horrible starts. Some of them have been somewhat abbreviated. He went back – sorry, one of those isn't the start because he was coming out of the bullpen. But he's a guy that we've seen start on and off throughout the years, and he's not bad. But this is a tough Minnesota team. It's much improved lineup, and even though they don't have Sano, and even though they don't have Dozier and Escobar and several other guys that they traded throughout the last season and a half, they don't have as many strikeouts in it as
right.
So that I just want to point that one out. But the interesting one I've got here is Odorizzi on the other side there. I think is intriguing, but Houston has such when they're firing on all cylinders, they're pretty good themselves. But if you're looking for a cheaper SP2, potentially Odorizzi would be in that mix. I'm personally leaning towards Yanni Chirinos as my guy, but I think other candidates here would be Godley and Musgrove. What are your thoughts about this mid-tier?
Yeah, so Peacock really just relies on 2 pitches. So you see him get beat up the 3rd time through the order, which is why a lot of times you won't see him go very deep into starts. Twins are striking out at the 3rd lowest clip in the league against righties this year. I mean, a pretty dramatic change from last year. Having Estudillo in there doesn't hurt either.
Yeah.
But I probably stay away from Peacock here. I'm with you. I'm a big fan of Matt Boyd. I think I'm going to be rostering him a lot this year, but not against Boston at Fenway where, righty power is so pronounced. So I don't see myself doing that. Brad Keller, I'm not paying $8K for Keller against a good Tampa Bay team. It's at Tropicana, but I don't think I want to go there. Yanni Chirinos, to me right now, feels like the guy that makes the most sense for sure. I don't see him having a big limit. He started the third day into the season, and he threw 88 pitches. Yanni Chirinos is a good pitcher. He's good. And the Royals they have plenty of strikeouts in this lineup. So, as a team, it might not seem like they strike out a ton right now, at least. But I mean, just look through the lineup who they're going to run out here against Chirinos. You're going to get, 4 or 5 guys that have very high K rates. I think, and especially with this game coming at Tropicana Field, Chirinos to me is one of my favorite SP2 options, probably my favorite SP2 option on this slate.
All right. Chris Bassitt getting recalled here from AAA Las Vegas for Oakland. Will be going against Texas. He's somewhat interesting. He's worked out of the pen and as a starter over the last couple seasons. He actually had a pretty decent year last year. When he first came into the league, we kind of laughed because the nickname, the Bassitt Hound, the Hound. So it's interesting. But he's a better pitcher than that nickname suggests. Not an easy matchup against Texas, but he's someone I think we can consider because he's 6,800. Guys we don't want, David Hess, don't take him unless he's facing the Toronto Blue Jays. So I think we want to load up on some White Sox. We have a game in Coors where we're going to have, I believe it's Jeremy Hellickson, and the one side I looked at said they don't have a pitcher identified yet, but the other one says Tyler Anderson. So I wonder, let's see, Bud Black said after the game that Anderson will be the starter, but stopped short of actually confirming the news. So he's coming off the injured list here with a sore knee. So I think that's why no one's confirmed it. But it does look like DK and the fantasy sites have tagged him as the starter, but the ESPN and MLB pitching pages don't have him. So, but regardless, play the Nats, play Colorado. Matt Harvey, no thanks. I just can't do it against New York, even the watered-down version of New York. So we've got some guys to pick on. We've got a little bit of a mid-tier here. Anybody else that you want to point out? I've never heard of this guy, but he's pitched for a while.
Manny Banuelos?
No, that wasn't the guy. Banuelos?
Ready? Hold on. I'm going to tell you.
All
Ready?
right.
Because I did some research on him.
Okay, good.
Ready? Here we go.
Manny Banuelos at long last makes
Banuelos.
There we go.
So last year, he had a 12.1% swinging strike rate in 108 AAA innings, 10.5 Ks per 9, and a 27% K rate. He can get some strikeouts, and it's really all I care about.
Yep.
It's when you're paying that, it's really all that matters. He's made four appearances out of the bullpen, 10 innings this season. He's getting the spot start, though. This is not a bullpen game, at least. That's not what it should be. That's not what it's labeled as. He's gone 3 innings or more in 3 straight outings out of the bullpen as a long reliever. He threw 61 pitches not long ago. So I think you could see him throw a decent amount of pitches. Listen, it is against the Orioles. It is against a bad Orioles team. They have not been striking out as much as we would have expected, but they've been pretty awful. And, if you're looking to go a little bit off the board, now I forget how they said it, but
Banuelos.
Banuelos.
Banuelos. Okay. Damn it.
Maybe he may have pronounced it wrong because there's the little tilde or squiggly above it. Banuelos, it looks like. Whatever. You'll see the name and you'll know what I'm talking about. He's going up against Baltimore, and you could probably do worse than that. I don't think it's the craziest idea to have him in there. And it's let me make sure that he is. Yeah. Yep. He's definitely starting. So you have that. Hauser's not a guy that I have any interest in against St. Louis. Just going over these before. Definitely not Harvey. Not Hellickson at Coors Field. Certainly not David Hess. I don't really have much interest in Odorizzi against Houston, although he's looked really good in 2 starts. And I think he's falls somewhere in the middle of what we've seen this year. The only other guy that we haven't mentioned that I would toss out there is Joe Musgrove. He's a good control
Musgrove or Godley, but I lean towards Musgrove too.
Yeah, Musgrove can give you, 7 strikeouts or so here. PNC Park, not in Arizona. It's not in Arizona. I mean, he's good. He's a control pitcher, so he can work deep into games when he's hitting his spots. All of that to me makes him a solid enough option. I don't have an issue with Godley, but I prefer I do prefer Musgrove at almost the identical price. With that being the case, just give me Musgrove here at home in a spot where I think he can perform really well. And right now, the second lowest implied total on the slate, other than the Tigers facing Sale, is the Arizona Diamondbacks at 3.5 against Joe Musgrove.
Yep. I concur with that one. So that's going to do it there for us, folks. Again,
give our top stacks before. We should probably do our stacks before.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we can do that. Obviously, Coors Field, both sides. I think the Yankees going against Harvey, and then the White Sox going against David Hess. That would be the 4.
Yeah, White Sox against Hess have to be towards the top of your list. Right now, they have the highest implied total on the slate, but we don't have totals for Coors yet. And we don't have any for St. Louis, Milwaukee, or Kansas City, Tampa Bay. I don't expect either of them to be that high. But so Coors, of course, Jeremy Hellickson. Tyler Anderson's actually not a bad pitcher. And last year he sacrificed ground balls for strikeouts. That would make him a good upside guy in the right spots, but also someone that can get tuned up when he's at Coors and he's not getting ground balls. And then lastly, we talked about, of course, Matt Harvey. The Yankees, by the way, if you can bet this right now, the Yankees, I don't care that actually, you know what? Maybe I'm wrong here. I should backpedal. I was going to say the Yankees have a 4.4 run implied total against Matt Harvey. But we have no Judge. And how many righties are they going to run out?
What happened to Judge? Is he hurt too?
Oh, yeah. That was yesterday. Oblique.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I mean, he's already on the IL. It's a significant strain. They expect him to be out probably a month or so.
So because why am I blanking on their other guy? So Andujar has already been on. Oh, Gleyber Torres. What's up with Gleyber Torres?
Torres is supposed. So check this out. Okay, this will blow your mind. Okay, let me pull it up. I was on the Sirius XM on Awesemo Radio. I was doing this the other day.
Sirius XM
on
Sirius 210 XM 87. Awesemo Radio.
There it is. Yep. Sirius 210 XM 87. Awesemo Radio. So I was doing this yesterday, looking at who's out. So we have Miguel Andujar, who he should be back relatively soon. Betances is still out. Should be back around June. Greg Bird, May or June. Jacoby Ellsbury, we don't know. Didi Gregorius, June or July or August, they're saying. So it could be anywhere. I'm just naming the notable ones. Aaron Hicks should be pretty soon, but still been out. Jordan Montgomery, quality lefty. Gary Sanchez, Luis Severino. Did Sanchez return to the lineup today?
He might have been back.
Nope.
Play on Monday, I think.
He didn't, but they expect him back. Luis Severino, July. Giancarlo Stanton should be pretty soon. Troy Tulowitzki, and then, of course, Aaron Judge. They just have a litany of injuries, and they're somehow still hanging in there. But, if they're going to run out a bunch of righties, then I have less interest. I'm telling you right now, if for some reason they have like 5 lefties in this lineup, because you will have Tauchman, Gardner, Ford, and Wade probably, maybe one other. I don't know who it would be. I haven't looked at it. But if that's the case, I'll take the Yankees against Harvey. He's not good against righties, but he's also not terrible against them. He's really bad against lefties. So pay attention to that. And then the last one, we talked about this. I think you can't overlook some of these Oakland bats just because Mike Minor's been pretty good. Also, a few Oakland hitters here that have just been outrageously good. Chris Davis is $4,400 on DraftKings. Okay, and then depending on where like Chad Pinder's $3,500, Mark Canha 3,500. Marcus Semien, 3,700. Chapman, 3,900. Think about that. These guys are all dirt cheap.
Yeah, that's going to be a great complementary stack with the Coors Field.
Yeah, it's just a shame that there aren't more high-priced pitchers that you could, use and then go cheap there. Like with Cincinnati stacks the other day, although Garrett Cole, people going Garrett Cole and Luis Castillo. Castillo was good. Cincinnati had a bunch of long balls, or at least a bunch of runs, and then Garrett Cole was terrible. But, so I don't know what this – actually, I think the Reds only had – they started off early and then struggled, but they were cheap, and they had 2 home runs. Point being, EMAC, that Oakland here is way cheaper. I mean, just ridiculously cheap given the matchup.
Absolutely. It looks like we're going to have a fun one here, gamers. So again, don't forget, you got the DFS strategy show at 9:15 weekdays. It'll be, I think we'll probably do the show a little later on Saturday. I've looked ahead at the schedule. The first games don't start until 2 and 4 o'clock on Saturday. So it's kind of a tweaked schedule a little bit. So we will adjust accordingly, but you'll get live before lock every day of the week for baseball, and you've got Fast City Fair coming to you. He may not do a show since there's only 2 games on Monday, but he will do one every other day. So just keep in mind, lots of Osmo content. Go to the Osmo YouTube channel if you're not already there. Click subscribe, hit that notification bell, and be alerted every time we go live or we upload our content. With that, you can follow Dave on Twitter at Laffy_D. I am at EMACDFS. It is Osmo_COM. Good luck, gamers.